That's the idea is how you can change the world. Some people think you should just complain about it. That won't change the world. It'll just make it bad. Some people think you have lots of money, making it rain everywhere you go. Holla for $1. Some people think you have to be really loud and yell a lot. It's like with a bullhorn shouting, "Hey you, yeah you, do it my way right now, you heard?" Other people choose to just make fun of everything. That's dumb, everyone's dumb. It's easier to make fun of stuff, but it's cooler to make stuff. Some people think changing the world can only be done by the smartest person in the world. Just put them in a room, let them figure it out. The solution of world hunger? Food. Wow, that was so amazing. Some people see the bad in the world and they just decide to ignore it. But that won't help anything. Some people think you have to be really famous and super cool. In fact, lots of people think you have to be really powerful to make a difference. Like being mayor or senator or president. But the truth is, a title doesn't make you more important. The world is changed by you. It's one person filled with love. And they just have to live it out, so they do something awesome. Then that person is filled with love, and they do something awesome. It just goes on and on and on and on. And the next thing you know, everything's awesome. Some people think it's impossible to change the world.
It's impossible to change the world.
Well, you can see why they could think that. Living in the world with kids who are hungry, people who are homeless, families weren't happy. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else, man. I do know this, though. Next time you feel overwhelmed or totally alone, remember this. Things don't have to be the way they are. The world is changed by ordinary people. Little people living out big love. And that's what gives the world a reason to dance.
Hey there, everybody. Isn't Kid President the best? I think he's absolutely right. We can definitely do what we can to change the world. So, hey there, dreamers and doers. I'm Carolyn.
I'm Lydia.
And I'm Braden, and welcome to Link with Loveworks. Link with Loveworks on Thursdays, where we spend a little bit of time giving a link recap on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Instagram. And so we're so excited to just talk a little bit about what we're doing. But this is going to be a very special episode where we have a conversation with a panel of friends. We take a stand today against racism.
But before that, we just like every episode, we have a question of the day.
That's right. Our question of the day is, what has been one of your favorite Link live streams? I know it's going to be hard to narrow down. There's 23 of them. In case you're like, there's 23 of them, they're all available right now on Facebook and YouTube. I think one of my favorites would be Mike Huang's. His is number 15. And believe it or not, I feel like I'm getting a lot older these days. And he talks about a bucket list and things that we want to accomplish before we die. And so I've actually been thinking a lot about that and the things that I want to accomplish.
Yes, I definitely need to start a bucket list. My favorite was number 11, Amy Downs. She inspired me because she overcome something as big as a terrorist attack and still is willing to talk about it and share her experiences.
And my favorite has to be our last episode, number 23, with Sajid Sumru, where he talked about how he could just embrace his life, and it was really cool because it was our first international episode, which was amazing to see. And talking about this with our 24th episode of Link, we're going to jump right into action and share about our favorite Link interview with Sajid. Sajid is an ambassador for peace, ambassador for volunteering, and the founder of the Learner's Tree. TLT's vision is to empower the youth through technical and soft skills training. His interest is to work with the youth and community services to promote the general welfare of the youth and the youth participation in the entire society.
That's all right. What we like to say is we share, you share, we'll grow together. So, Braden, what's your favorite part from our last Monday episode?
My favorite part was when Sajid really talked about what advice he would give to his middle school and high school self. And he talked about just enjoying the time you have.
when you are in a school life, you might be get the trouble about the future, because I have seen a lot of students, they don't enjoy the moment, and they always take tensions about the future. uh, I just advise them to just enjoy these moments, because the school and college moments never come again. When you grow, uh, yeah, when you become an elder, you always miss your school life, because that's precious moment are amazing. And one thing I want to tell you, when I was in Norman, I remember my first day at Love Works. I see the middle school students are doing great job. I was thinking about my life when I was in middle school level. Even I don't I know nothing about my life, and they are doing actually a great job in their life. So be thankful what you have, and just focus on your life, and stay positive, and the difficult time come in your life, just be strong, and you will get a lot of suggestions, but what your heart says, just follow that.
Yes, that was one of my favorite parts, but my ultimate favorite was when we asked Sajid his last minute link at the end of the episode. Here's what he said.
I want to share a quotation. Uh, there's a one day in your favor. Everything will be better, and your school results, exams, life will be, everything will be in your favor in your life. And there's a second day, maybe against your wishes, against your life, and against everything you want. uh, that's the life system. And some people want peace in their life, that this life means death. The peace is in the death. If you are alive, you will face this, some positivity, some negativity. So you stay calm and stay relaxed. Just embrace your life.
Yes, I just loved his outlook on just embracing life. And what a way to end off our first international episode. So in the comment box below, feel free to share your favorite part from Monday's interview. Let us know if there's any future guests you'd like us to feature on Link with Loveworks.
And I love spending time with you all, but it's time to pass the mic onto our friends Precious and Dontrell.
You may remember Dan Trell from one of our previous episodes. He's now also living into Evansville University now, and we're excited to have him host. Dan Trell was born in Del City, Oklahoma, and he's the oldest of 17 kids. He's studying marketing and accounting with a minor in finance in Evansville University. He loves music, games, and hitting the grind.
And Precious is no stranger to Loveworks. She was one of the first students to ever join Loveworks. Precious is now 20 years old and attends Rose State College for Business and loves her job at Chick-fil-A. She attends Quest Church and loves people. All right, y'all, it's your turn.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Well, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know we have a very special guest today. We are joined tonight from Mr. Brock Baker from California. He is a really awesome songwriter. He has been singing since the age of 5, and even in 2007 won the GMA Award for being like the best singer in that category. Actually, he has shared the stage with some of the biggest names in the world, such as Lionel Richie, Tori Kelly, and even, and this is pretty awesome, I gotta admit, he was at the 2017 Pepsi halftime show, not as a fan or a player, but as a background singer for Lady Gaga.
Hi, Brock. Can you tell us the name of the song you wrote and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, this song's called Marley. And for those of you that know music at all, Bob Marley was a significant person in music. He sang reggae music, but basically his message was all about love and peace and about sharing that to the world. In fact, he was someone who was African American, and he was actually shot and killed for his message, which was equality, love, and peace. And given the times and the race relations right now, I mean, I can go outside my door and there's riots going on and there's looting and there's just a lot of disunity and hate. This was a song that I actually wrote a couple years back, but I wrote it then because there was disunity and hate and everything with race back then. And here we are again, and it's escalated to this time. So this is a song that I wrote in hopes that people could spread some love and we could all unify together. We're not black, not white. We're all 50 shades of gray in the middle of a gravesite, mowing down our brothers, just like grass in gas chambers, bullets in the gunfight, ricochet. All the blame, you can put the blame on me. We need love, like Marley said. Wanna love, resurrect our dead. Trying to make ends meet. We're just struggling, begging, trying to eat. We need love, love. We're not left, not right. Wrong, conservative, liberal, spitting images like a hate song, tearing down each other. While the ground is filled with homeless children and single mothers, ricochet. All the blame on me. We need love, like what you say. Wanna love, resurrect our dead. Trying to make ends meet, we're all struggling, begging, trying to eat. Love, oh, love, oh, love. We need to call reality back. Sleeping out of your room, we've been going never retract, yeah. We got our dirty laundry out on the rack. We need to wash a little deeper, a little nearer, yeah. We need to call reality back. Sleeping out of your room, we've been going never retract. We got our dirty laundry out on the rack. We need to wash a little deeper. Love, resurrect our dead. Trying to make ends meet. We're all struggling, begging, trying to eat. We need
Brock, that was awesome. Thank you for sharing your gift with us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, man. Blessings. Stay safe.
God bless y'all.
Well, everyone, thank you again so much for tuning in to this particular Link episode number 24. My name is Michael, and we are dedicating today's Link live stream to have a candid conversation with a special panel to take a stand against racism and social injustices. Here's the deal. We are definitely not claiming to be the experts, but we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can to use our platform and the platform of LoveWorks to have important conversations. And I know this, that me personally and as an organization, I want to be clear that we can do better. Carolyn, will you let everybody know just and introduce our special panel tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. These should be familiar faces to you all. They are definitely friends of Loveworks. We have Bola Ibadapo with us. She's a TEDx speaker, claims and legal specialist. She's also the founder of the Queen Talk and co-founder of the Two Fly Foundation. Tyler Overton, you may recognize him from our Raising Little Leaders episodes. Tyler Overton is a music teacher for Norman Public Schools. He is also the Rookie Teacher of the Year of 2019, and he's also an Ironman triathlete. And let me add in one more thing, because he's the jack of all trades. He's also a DJ. And we also have Miss Faith Cope with us. She's 18 years old. We got to know her when she was in middle school. She's a Loveworks alumni. She attends Oklahoma City Community College. And this past weekend, she organized a protest in memory of George Floyd.
Well, Tyler, Bola, Faith, and we have the fortunate privilege to have Dantrell and Precious sitting in the panel seat. Thank you all for being with us today and having this candid conversation. Well, this is an easy conversation to have, but we felt it was important to have one. And where do you start? And I think one of the most important parts and the places that we need to start first is just coming to an agreement that there is a problem. You know, I was thinking just about the United States, and that the United States was founded on the principle that all people are created equal, which is great. But however, we have not yet been able to reach our founding principle and the goal, and in particular for Black Americans. So if we've not achieved the goal, there is definitely still work that needs to be done. And so, you know, we want to start here because you can't solve a problem that you can't see. And so that's where we want to start. Just a couple of weeks ago, I saw a panel, a quote that was floating around, and it was a quote by Will Smith. Even when I say Will Smith, I can start bopping my head thinking of music to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But this particular quote that came out was him saying this, is that he said that racism is not getting worse. He says it's getting filmed. Now, everyone just listen clearly and closely. He didn't say that in May of 2020, but he said that in August of 2016. And so, Bola, I think you're going to kick us off here, but you know, we would love for you to be able to just talk with us in whatever part you want to share. But when did you begin to just realize that, you know, racism was a real thing?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Loveworks. I'm so excited that we're just having this candid dialogue. I think for me, being a Black female, it's funny because I think I knew and I experienced it since I was in grade school, but I didn't know what to call it. I mean, when you're in grade school, you understand what it means to have your feelings hurt, and you know what it means when someone says something hurtful to you. But the different um, pain and heartache when you realize it's targeting you because of how you looked. And I probably at in grade school didn't call it racism. My parents probably knew what was happening or did know and then tried to explain to me. But you know, growing up in a predominantly white um, town, Plano, Texas, and it's grown to be more diverse, but still predominantly white. And having your friends that are supposed to be your friends on the playground saying mean things to you about your skin, and you're just saying they're like, I was born this way, I didn't. And feeling excluded or um now and then, you know, racism, there's little branches that stem from that, one term called microaggression. So it's not blatant racism where someone's threatening your life, but they're treating you clearly different. And I remember having experiences with teachers who would accuse me that I was cheating on a test, and my mom having to rush to the school and stand up for me. Or same thing when I went to college and having someone just blatantly call you out of your name. And so the first time I realized racism was a thing was when I was young. And but Unfortunately, now we're having to have more and more talks with young people, and they exactly know what's going on. So that's definitely my experience.
And no, I agree. It's one of those things that we hear at a really young age, from a really young age, like we're all supposed to be treated equally. But we start to notice, like, wait, is that true? Like we're starting to notice those things. And so Tyler, I wanted to ask you, like, you're a teacher, you're working with elementary age students. Would you mind sharing with us an experience that you had with a fourth grade student this year, that you shared with us on social?
Yeah. So this year, I teach pre-K music, and they're doing their center time, and I walked over, and there were a group playing, and one of the she's actually 4 years old, actually, which made it all the more heartbreaking to me. She was playing with with another student. She said, "I'm allergic to black skin," and honestly, last week on social media is the first time I really shared that with anyone, because that was such a shock moment, and I didn't know what to do. The school is, I'm actually maybe the only black teacher at that particular school that I was at. And being a 4-year-old, I was just afraid of the pushback. If I was to share that, it would be, I'm sure people would say, oh, they didn't know what they were saying or whatever, which may be true or whatnot. But the fact that that came out of that child's mouth that had to be repeated from somewhere, to some extent. And trying to talk to a 4-year-old about why we don't say things became very real for me as a young person who didn't really feel like I had a place to speak out on things that bothered me, because most of my friends were all white and I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And then just learning that and experiencing it. But that broke my heart, that that would be something that someone as young as 4 years old would say, and just show me, for me, how important the education aspect of this whole conversation is, and how that starts from the beginning, and you can't ignore it, and push it down. There has to be ways that we can equip people to educate our next generation. So yeah.
For sure. And I know you mentioned, like, you grew up with friends that were predominantly white, and you were afraid to speak out. So when would you say that you feel like you discovered that racism was real?
So I think similar to Bola, very similar experience. Like when I was a kid, like I used to have an afro, and people would throw things in it. You know, I'm an Enneagram 7. I hate to disappoint people, and predominantly most of my friends were white. Most of the black students that went to school with me, I just didn't get along with them for other reasons. Being there's like the stigma that I fall into, that I know some other people fall into, being too white to be black or too black to be white, and I really struggled with that for a long time. But the people that my white friends were the ones that we at least that's who I gravitated towards. I was in choir and theater, and that was majority people that were in that. So things like being not, you're the whitest black person I know, being an Oreo, those are things I got called. And I have always been okay being the brunt of the joke, because I want to make people laugh. And that was really a disservice to myself and to my friends. But I think the moment that really like showed me, like, there are people out there that do not like me because of my skin. Like, I never felt my friends didn't like me. I just felt like they didn't know, and I didn't know how to tell. But I think freshman year, when I came to OU and I saw the video of that many people know, where they're saying there'll never be an N-word in SAE, and there's a member of that fraternity that lived down the hall from me, and I remember feeling legit scared for the first time, being a black person, and I felt like I couldn't even talk to anyone about it, because It was more just about the craziness of the result of that and not how does it affect me, you know? So I think that'd be the first time when I was like, I felt the real fear. And then looking back now in my life and the things that have happened, I just see like, I don't want to be a silent. I have these friends for a reason and I chose them and I know they love me, but I want to be able to speak out and not have to be the brunt of a joke or anything like that because of my skin. I don't want any other child to feel that way either. So.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that and just so raw and what you felt during that time, because I don't think many people know like what people felt. I remember when that video came out, and it was just the shock. It was like, oh wow, like I can't believe this is happening. Versus like checking in. So, well, I want to ask also the young people. I say that, Bola, Tyler, hear me out. You're young too. But I wanted to ask Faith, Dantrell, and Precious. We'll start with Precious. Precious, could you fill us in? Like, when did you realize racism was real?
Well, my first like experience was back in middle school. I did wear Afro too, and people would just like mess with, like they would put dirt in my hair. They would make fun of my skin color. Like they would call me burnt, and for a long time I've hated my skin color. Due to that, like people picking on me, calling me like I was too dark. They would ask if I was like, why are you here? Like, why are you not in Africa? Like people would tell me to go back to Africa. I'm like, I was born in America. Like it was kind of confusing. And then like one of the most thing like that actually hurt my feelings is when I got into high school. I was a freshman and I was walking back to my class and this lady came through. She goes, "Oh, you're so beautiful for a Black girl." And I don't take that as a compliment. And I've always never taken that as a compliment. And it also happened the other day at my job. I got the same compliment from a male, and I didn't have anything to say. Like I could have responded and wasted my breath and educated him, saying, "Sir, that's not how you say it. That too. You could have just said I was beautiful. Period. You didn't have to add anything else to it." But that's not like me knowing that that's not a compliment. I didn't know how to like tell him that's not a compliment because I don't know what to say without me sounding like I'm coming off rude or like, you know, having an attitude or anything. So I just kind of just took it and like let it hurt my feelings. And I talked to my mom about it and like, what do I say in that situation? Like, what can I say?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like, even at what you say, like it catches you off guard. Like you're just like, what? Like this isn't supposed to be a thing, right? Like we're in 2020, we're in, you know, whatever year. Like I feel like we've been saying it every single year. It's like it's 2017. Like why is this still happening? It's 2018. Why is this still happening? But thank you for sharing that and just your experience through middle school and even to today. Dantrell, when did you realize?
So my situation is actually pretty similar to Tyler's. So growing up in Del City, around, you know, by time I was born in 2001, and between 2001 and 2010, that area, Del City is a predominantly, you know, African American ran place. You know, the area is mostly African American. So of course, being raised in that area, you know, I'm not used to seeing. I wasn't really much. Like I saw people of other races, but as far as like consistently, I saw more of my own type than anybody else's. I started to experience it once I got here to Norman, and I just, you know, I guess I was different. I had somebody tell me that, like, you know, you're not a typical Black person, and I was like, well, what does that supposed to mean? And that's where I was kind of introduced to stereotypes at the same time, because of, you know, obviously stereotypes plays a big part in with the youth, because they're used to, oh, well, Black people eat, you know, fried chicken or, you know, watermelon, stuff like that. And they're used to all those different types of stuff like that. We talk a certain way. And me, I'm really like, I talk really proper. Not now, obviously, I'm messing up a lot of words, but I talk really like proper, and I'm very educated. And I guess for some reason, people just didn't understand how a Black person could be educated. I guess they thought, you know, we're all really dumb. And it was kind of hard for me, because I started to experience, you know, the same thing that Tyler did, you know, as far as like people would be like, hey, you're an Oreo, you're not, you know, you're a white person. I got told you're a white person in a Black person's body a lot. And that, it made me think at times, you know, it's sometimes I'll like go home and I'll be like, man, like it's not my fault that I was, that I'm put in black skin. It's not like my fault that I'm, darker than y'all. And there was times where, I, I I was tripping at some points. I looked up Michael Jackson disease, and I was like, is that a thing that I can, catch by myself? And it got to a point where it was hard for me just to go outside and hang out with people because I was afraid that they weren't going to accept me. And that was just going on the white side of things. And the black side of things, it was hard for me to go hang out with my black friends because they would tell me that, oh, you're not like us and you can't hang out with us because we're doing things that's probably not in your, stature. And I would go, and if I want to go hang out with the white people, they would tell me the exact same thing, but they would flip up the words a little bit. And so for me, like how I grew from it as far as that is just I turned like that into like positive. So whenever they would tell me, oh, you talk really proper and you do all this, I would turn that for me into a positive, and I would just continue to grow on that. I think it's very important as far as like for more kids to kind of come out about that at a younger age and start to understand that at a younger age for sure. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important that we're more aware. Like I think you all kind of mentioned this. It came for Precious. You said it a little bit more aggressively, but it comes through these microaggressions where people don't really realize like what they're saying and how that can affect what it really means. Miss Faith, we wanted to ask you as well. Like, when did you realize that racism was still present?
So I grew up in a small town in southeastern Oklahoma, and I had some new neighbors that moved in. I was in elementary school, and I remember asking my mom every day, like begging her, nagging her, can I go play with the new neighbors? And I never got a direct reason why. But the older I get, the more and more I realize that it was due to their skin color. I went back and I heard some really like negative things. And one of my childhood friends, I was like, we can't be friends if we're going to be like this. And that was kind of like, that was the point where I was like, okay, like people don't get to live their life how I live my life. And that's not okay. But my freshman year, I had a really awesome friend, and she was mixed, and we were like super, super close. And I remember we were walking to the donut shop, and she yelled some very explicit things at a police officer. And I was very confused because, I was taught to respect that person with authority. They're an authority figure. You respect them. You don't downgrade them or anything like that. And she mentioned the Trayvon Martin case to me. And at that point, I still had no idea what was happening. I didn't understand the Black Lives Matter movement at all. That was the first time I really had heard of it. And I was very confused as to why my friend, a freshman in high school, was yelling all these things. And so she continued to talk to me about it. And I kind of just looked at her like I was not what you were saying to me. But that was the start. That was where I started realizing that there's racism throughout my school, there's racism throughout my communities, and that's honestly where the fire started.
Thank you for filling us in. I feel like, it shows us like each of your stories, like it happened when you were young, like you realized like this is a thing when you were very young. Well, let's talk about like our current reality right now. And I'm so thankful for you guys to share your stories and the experiences that you guys had. And I know they're not the only ones either. Like this is a tip of the iceberg. So
I could already see Bola, who's been a mentor, saying, "That's my guy. Those are my girls." I see you out there, Bola. So
I'm just blown away. It's one of those things. I'm looking at Faith and Precious and Dontrell, who I've had the pleasure of mentoring too, and it's a sobering moment because I'm sharing the experiences that I've had, and then these awesome young people who are not so young anymore are sharing the same experiences. They're reliving the same thing that Tyler and I did when we were in middle school, and it's a sobering thing. And
absolutely. No, so thank each of you for starting here. And I know that some of those parts may be hard to talk about, but it's important. It's important for us because if I'm not aware of the barriers that you face, then there's no way that I'm possibly going to be able to see them, much less be motivated to do anything to help them. And that's why we wanted to start there. We want to transition now to present and really hear about your current realities. Here's the thing. We're beyond the calling and asking someone, how are you? I've stopped the how are yous, and I've now been asking, how's your heart and how's your mind? And I think it's important for us to be able to hear, how is your heart and how is your mind? A couple of weeks ago, when the news broke about George Floyd, I called a few of my Black friends and I asked them at first, how were they doing? And a response that I heard was that some of them were tired. Some of my friends were tired. And I saw the same comment being made about being tired on social media. And it kind of struck me. You all know me pretty well. Michael, the activator, like, let's rally the troops, let's get together and let's storm the gates and let's do something about that. Here's our moment. Here's our opportunity. And a couple of days later, I did some soul searching, and it was during a run. And on this particular run, Tyler, you can probably relate to this. It was just not my day. And it wasn't an extraordinary, long run, but my legs were feeling tired. My heart rate was elevated. And to be honest with you, I began to get frustrated. And I started thinking to myself, I'm kind of tired right now. I've been putting in a lot of effort, and I should be seeing more results. And then it hit me with the conversations that I began having with my friends and my colleagues, that this is something that it's not just something that happened, a one-time event, but this has been something that has been happening for years. And so, Bola, starting with you, would you mind just sharing with us, how is your heart and how is your mind?
Thank you, Michael. I think you hit it on the head. I'm almost like you as well. I try to start off and what can we do, right? Like a doer, and realizing it's okay to just admit that I'm tired. My heart's tired. I'm mentally tired. I'm emotionally tired. Um, Especially when you're in a position of leadership. So when people look at you, you don't want people to look. You want to be hopeful, and I am, but yeah, I'm tired. And a lot of my friends are sharing the same thing. We're tired. It's this. It kind of feels like you're running because remember we just 2 weeks earlier ran 2.23 miles for Ahmaud Aubrey, right? And then now we turn back on our social media and we're literally seeing a man be killed. And so I would say right now I'm tired. It's a mixed bag because I'm hopeful. It's a contradictory emotion every day. I'm hopeful because I'm seeing the people, especially hopeful because of the people that don't look like me, that are out there and advocating and fighting. That gives me hope. Or it's hopeful to see my friends that look like me still doing great things, and great things are happening in my own life. But at the same time, I'm still tired, and that's the honest answer for me and a lot of my friends.
No, thanks for being honest with us. It's important, but I see you out there. You are responding to those messages. You're giving those restaurant recommendations in the DFW area. And we'll get to this story in just a minute, but then you're getting in your car and you're making a day trip to drive up to Norman to be a part of a protest. Thank you, Bola. Tyler, we'd like to ask you the same question. Man, how are you? How's your heart? How's your mind?
I think I could echo a lot of the statements that Bola made. But from my perspective and being able to, and what I've seen on social media, I've been honestly very, this has been a roller coaster of emotions, like the mixed bag. Like me as a runner watching Ahmaud Arbery on a run, that hit so different, and I've never felt like I didn't want to run, and it's something that I've loved, and like that just fear. So like the mix of fear and being tired, but I've really come to a place where I'm encouraged. I really am. I see people that I would not have ever expected to post Black Lives Matter, posting that. I've seen good conversations. This happening right now is not something I maybe would have had the opportunity to do. And I'm appreciative of these kinds of things. And I am very appreciative of seeing and encouraged by the young people that I see. I guess I'm so young, so people my age that are willing to stick out for me. Because like for me, I really felt like I can't share my experiences because I feel like people will think less of me, and are people really willing to stick out for me? And seeing people being awakened to that and willing to have hard conversations and to be vocal about it on social media, I think is important in this day and age too. So amidst the roller coaster of emotions, I do think I've come to a place of hope and encouragement that I feel encouraged by what I see.
Well, I appreciate hearing you say that. Thanks for being just honest, raw, with us. I was glad that you just even echoed what Bola said, that you could, and even what we're doing right now. I just feel like from LoveWorks' standpoint, it feels small, but I'm glad though that you do sense that there's some enthusiasm, there's some support, because here's the deal. Like at the end of the day, I think we have to understand that the ultimate power does not lie in the hand of a particular man or woman with a title. But I sincerely believe that the power lies within the people. And if we can find unification, and we'll make that transition in this conversation, then I really believe that all things are possible and we can really see some positive change happen. Carolyn?
Yeah. We wanted to address some of the different phrases that we've seen out there right now. And, they may have some well-intentioned ideas behind them, but they're not really the full picture. And so I know our students have been seeing them, our families have been seeing them, but one of those phrases has been, like, I don't see color, or I don't see race, or I don't judge by that. I want to just ask you guys, like, how do you feel about those phrases? Like, what's the full picture here? I'll ask. Yeah. Go for
it. Speaking to that, I don't see color, because I just had this conversation with someone. I get the intention behind it for a lot of people. With all these phrases, there's different groups of people. There are people that are saying this as a way to just stir up trouble on the internet, and then there are people that might think this is an okay thing to say. But at the end of the day, like, my experiences of being Black in America are going to be different. And for you to say that you don't see my color, just first off, is a statement that doesn't really make much sense if you think about it. Like, that's just not true. Like, you do see that people have different color skin. Like, that is a legitimate fact. But also, like, my experiences are different. And for you to say that negates all of those, and just takes away a part of who I am, because that is part of my story. And that's where the hurt comes in. And that's not what and people that mean well by it, they don't mean they don't see color. They mean that they should say is, I see color and I love you because of it. And I celebrate you, and you're beautiful, and all those things. And that's what they should be saying if they really truly believe what they think they're saying.
Tyler, that's good, man. There are no one-colored rainbows out there. No one takes a picture and brings out their smartphone and takes a picture of a one-colored rainbow, right?
That actually that sounds rare. I might take a picture of that, but
I was gonna say that.
But Carolyn's the exception here. Bola, another statement that I've been seeing, and I'd love for you to speak into. And again, we're bringing these up, and they may have been said with pure, honest intentions, but I think it's important that we see through them today for what some of these statements could mean. And it's ALM, All Lives Matter. And I don't think I have to give you time to think about it to respond, but I want to give everyone a metaphor on why I think it's important that we rethink saying all things matter. I agree, all things matter, but now's not the time to say it. Here's the deal. In the back of my yard, I have a huge play set. I have 3 little kiddos, ages 3, 5, and 7. And imagine that they're all playing out in my backyard. And my 3-year-old Anchor, he loves to swing high as he can. And imagine that he's on one of these big swings and he falls off and he's crying. Being dad, what am I going to do? I'm naturally going to run to my son who's crying. I'm not going to ignore my son and call out to my 5-year-old and 7-year-old and have everybody line up while my son is crying and look them all in the eye and tell them each how much I love them and how important they are to me. Are they important to me? Yes. But right now, in this moment, at this time, what matters is my son. So I'm getting a little fired up. Bola, I'll turn it over to you. ALM, anything that you'd like to say about that?
Sure. I think that's a perfect analogy. I think, like Tyler said, just like color blindness, it seems as though you're being inclusive. You want everyone, but unfortunately, why it's so disheartening is because if you think about the origin of All Lives Matter, it didn't become a thing until Black Lives Matter, until people were chanting Black Lives Matter, and that was something that I really shared in my my speech at the protest that Faith organized. I know we're going to get into, but it's pointing out that all lives matter. If that is the case, then anyone that believes all lives matter has to be the strongest force in Black Lives Matter. Because right now, Black Lives Matter is not being reflected in our society. It's not being reflected in our systems. And so if I say Black Lives Matter, comma 2, the comma 2 is silent, and you say all lives matter, it's being dismissive of what we're currently going through. And at least for me, I haven't seen people that have said all lives matter come out until there's things like this going out. And usually it's in the opposition or going against people that say Black Lives Matter. So I would love to be able to chant all lives matter, but the reality is that right now that's not true right now, or at least it's not being reflected. So I think people need to ask themselves, why am I saying this right now? Why am I saying this? Why do I feel the need? I think also a lot of times it's a kind of a self guilt type thing where if you say no, all lives matter, it's kind of you're trying to detach yourself maybe from being a part of the actual problem that's going on. And so I just want to challenge people to do a heart check that when you're saying all lives matter, when are you actually saying it? And if all lives matter, how are you showing that in your actual life besides just saying it when someone first says Black Lives Matter?
I think that detachment point is so important when we say like all lives matter, and you just like you're like I'm all lives matter, like this isn't an issue, right? Like and so it's I think similar to even a statement that said sometimes when people it's almost a knee-jerk reaction when they say like I'm not a racist, like I'm not a racist, and whether they've been accused of that or not, but it's almost like it's an apathetic approach towards it of just like I'm not going to be a part of this, like I don't have anything to do with this, I'm not a racist, like I'm exiting out. And it's that detachment that we just like we can't have. Like I love what you said, like those that are really saying all lives matter, like they need to be the strongest force then, like then make that true, like if you believe all lives matter, then make that true. Thanks for sharing that.
So we would love to. There's other statements, but I think it's important that we begin to turn a corner. As we mentioned in the very beginning, the goal here is to have a candid conversation. We're not going to bring all the solutions to the table, but I couldn't be more proud of each of you and our students that have now young adults. Carolyn, I keep saying students. I don't know if students or young adults, but how about I say leaders? So we're going to talk now about taking action. And I want to quote Condoleezza Rice. She said something about 7 days ago that I think is so powerful. For those of you who don't know, Condoleezza, she was a Secretary of State from 2005 to 2009. She's now a professor at Stanford University Graduate School of Business. And she said this in the wake of the George Floyd death, that Americans and people around the world are experiencing right now grief, outrage, and shock, a set of emotions that too often are repeated. She went on to say, though, that if the past is a guide, that these feelings will fade and we will return back to our lives the way they used to be. But she went on to say, but something tells me not this time. This horrific death should be enough to finally move us to positive action. And so we're going to take a turn now and talk about how can this be a turning point. And Faith, we direct this question to you. Your heart was moved and you did something about it. So can you share with us the story that led to you taking action?
I definitely will. Real fast, so there's a quote, since you're mentioning quotes, and it's from Assata Shakur, and it was stated in 1973. So this really is taking us back in time. She had to know any Black person in America, if they are honest with themselves, have got to come to the conclusion that they don't know what it feels like to be free. And so I think that really just speaks magnitude to what really took place in my heart in that moment is I'm living my life daily. I'm living my life daily. And when I get pulled over, I'm not concerned about whether this is going to be my last day on earth, but I'm concerned about whether I'm getting a ticket. I've not feared for my life in the way that many, if not all, members of the Black community have. I've not been treated the way that, once again, many, if not all, members of the community have. I did grow up with a lot of white privilege. I grew up in white suburbia almost, and seeing the video of George Floyd and that there weren't any repercussions at that moment, it made me realize that I grew up with white privilege. It's time to take a stand. It's time to stand up and say, my voice is heard. Because the Black community has been yelling about this for years, if not decades, centuries, for so long. And it's not going to make a difference until members of the white community stand up and they say, okay, enough is enough. And unfortunately, a lot of people haven't done that yet. This should have been taken care of long before my time. But the time is now. We're going to end this. We're taking care of it. And so, we organized a protest, we put it together. We got speakers like Miss Bola, and we partnered with Aaron Palmer over at the BSA at OU. And, we're just continuing to plan things like further into the community and say, like, what else can we do? And honestly, that's what it is. We can speak out. We can use our white privilege and our platform to make a difference in other people's lives.
Hey, thanks for sharing that. And I like what you said of just like, okay, this is one thing that we're doing right now, but what are we going to do next? Like what can we do next? This is the turning point. And so I just remember even seeing the flyer for the protest that was planned. And then I was like, wait, that's Faith's name. And just encouraged that, that you took some action, you took steps and reached out to Bola. And so thank you for doing that and using your voice. We wanted to ask Tyler, Bola, all honestly, like, what do you think that our families can do? So we have some families listening right now, and they're curious, like, they may have young kids, they may have elementary, middle school age students, and I think they're wondering, like, what can we do right now to educate our children, our families, but also, like, what are some actionable steps? And so, Tyler, I'll start with you. What do you think our families can do?
I think like I said, I'm passionate about education as a teacher. I think being able to have those conversations and be really candid, and not skirt around things, because like you've heard in our past stories, all of us like experience things in elementary school from our friends, or just people. So I think parents, you can start to have conversations about what that looks like. And there's so many resources that I didn't have. I love how many books are out there now. There's so many resources. My school librarian shared all these books that they have for children and kids, and then there's books that you can introduce for any age level, I really think. So I don't think there's, with the technology we have, and the resources that are out there that are being shared, especially right now, like there's, to me, I think there's no excuse to go out and find those, and they can help you to have those conversations. And it's okay, you're going to get it wrong. You got to start somewhere. You can't just like be silent on it. So I think that's important going forward.
Tyler, if you don't mind, I'd love to jump in with this question. I think this goes back to the statements, a couple of them that we were referencing earlier. Another one that I saw was this: what age do I start in talking with my kids? Do you mind speaking into that?
Yes. So I'm not a parent, but I teach 4-year-olds at I'm their first teacher they ever experienced at school. And like I experienced this year, like they see color and they're going to tell you like it is, because they're that age. So for me, I think you're never too young. Like there's things that those kids, they're like sponges, and they learn things so quickly. And it doesn't have to be shouldn't be an aggressive gotcha thing. It's just an opportunity to learn, because everything, all these things and microaggressions, they're learned from somewhere. And having a home that you can teach kids to love each other and see each other as beautiful, and bring different things into your home. Like I thought all superheroes were white. I thought you had to be white to be a good superhero. But just a little thing, like my favorite movie is the new Spider-Man that came out. He's black. And I wish I had to see that as a kid, because it's my favorite movie now. But I think that's such a little thing. But looking up to black role models is something you can bring into your home as a 4-year-old or as a young kid. And if they just see that, that will be, that's just a start that you can have too. So hope that answers your question. I don't have kids, so.
So in other words, let's start in the womb. I'll be honest. I had thought that, we've had a conversation around the table. We wrote about this in a recent blog at LoveWorks, but we sat down, my 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and 7-year-old, and we talked about George Floyd and what happened. We didn't show the video. And the reason I didn't show the video is because I did not want it to ever be viewed as entertainment. But we did show a picture, and that was a hard moment for a couple of my kids. But I'll tell you, every second day, fourth day, fifth day, one of my kiddos brings up George's name, and it gives me just an opportunity. So I personally feel, as a young dad, that I would have started earlier. Bola, how about you? Any bit of wisdom and advice that you would share to a family about this?
Once again, I'm also not a parent. I have a 6-year-old cousin who's like my son most days, but he takes my money like he's my son. So, but I would just challenge parents, and I'm sure Tyler can too, as a teacher. But I feel as though you teach your kids by teaching yourself. I love Michael did a post the other day, and he said that Naya and said one of her heroes was me. But it's the fact that if your young student, if your middle school, high school student doesn't see that their parents care about having diverse friends, they every time they go to a birthday party, every time they go to a fair, or every time they go to church or wherever, and everyone looks like them, then how do you expect that when they go off into the world that they're going to understand how to interact with different people? Um, if you're not taking the time in the household to maybe experience different things, or maybe you go to that restaurant, that Caribbean Jamaican restaurant, and you're around you're in a black owned restaurant, and they're experiencing and they're seeing someone in a position that owns a business, and is a part of the economy and part of the community and doesn't look like them. Next Friday is Juneteenth, June 19th. Maybe this is an opportunity where, as a family, you guys can look up historical facts. You guys can um, look up things to learn, and it can be fun. But now they're getting a bigger perspective than just what may be taught in school, because sometimes school has a very narrow um, way of teaching our history. And so, my encouragement to parents is start with yourself as an example, because, like Tyler mentioned, that young 4-year-old student, they are replicating everything you see. And so, I know young people were like, "Well, I grew up in my household, my goddad was black, or I had friends, or whichever." And so, it was natural. Or you see where students aren't interacting at all. So, how are you making your household a place that loves and exudes and the love of diversity and people that don't look like them? I remember I remember it. I'll be 27 next month, and I never put the word beautiful and bola in a sentence until I was in college. And in hindsight, it wasn't because ever looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Bola, you're ugly." But I realized that when I looked at a magazine, I saw all girls that were white or blonde. When I was in high school, I was one of two or three in my classroom. And so, what are you doing to show the different beauties of different shades and saying, "I see that she's different. I see that he's different. But like Tyler says, I see that you're beautiful. I appreciate you. I protect you, everything." So that's
Yeah,
my
it reminded me of a quote. Sorry, it pertains to music education, but I think it goes with this. It's music education begins 9 months before the birth of the mother, which that just means like if you're gonna ask when to start, like it starts like what she said with you're never too old to teach yourself something new, and that has to be normalized, and like being willing to change your opinion based on new information. And I'm doing that every day too. As a Black American, I'm still learning about the history of my ancestors. And just bringing those into the home. So you're never too late to learn. Just echoing that.
Tyler and Bola, thank you so much for sharing your hearts. I've said this privately to y'all. I love you guys. I really appreciate you just being open, honest, real, and helping to make this better. I know you know this, and where we're going to begin to wrap up this first conversation that we're having, but I know you wouldn't want it any other way, and to be able to hear the voices of the few students that we have on this call, Faith Precious and Dan Trell. And so, Carolyn, I think we're going to put LoveWorks in the hot seat. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. We're here for it. So, Michael mentioned at the beginning, LoveWorks has room to grow. And I think this time has definitely shown us that. And it's a time of reflection, and it's a time to listen and learn. And so we wanted to talk to you guys specifically. You were students in our middle school programs throughout even high school, and then you stayed connected even now as college students. And so we wanted to ask, how do you think LoveWorks can do better to combat racism?
I personally think that I've never felt close, or felt any different from any other student at LoveWorks. LoveWorks was like the best place for me to express myself, me being myself, breaking out of my shell and growing up to be the young adult I am today. Michael was the perfect person to, he treated everybody the same. We all got in trouble if somebody got punished, and we all were dealt with. He never made it different where the person was treated different it was treated different. Everybody was treated differently, and I'm very much grateful for Mr. Michael for doing that. Like all the leaders that I've came in contact with opened up to me and treated me like I was just a student, and I never had to feel different or out of place at all ever at Loveworks. Loveworks was like a second home to me. I felt very special being there. Like I had opportunities being my skin color, being Black. I have a big old poster of my face from Loveworks, and I mean, Loveworks opened a lot of opportunities for me being African American, and I very much appreciate y'all for that. So I say that there's room for Loveworks to grow, but there's no there's nothing that separates me being Black and then another person being a white student. I mean, that's just how it is. That's how I see it, and very appreciative for all y'all for doing that for us.
Well, Precious, thank you for voicing that. I will, it encourages my heart, and I'll still continue to learn and grow and involve students. That I love what you said of just like you felt like you were able to be Black. And I hope that that's true for all of our students here at Loveworks, that they are comfortable with being who they are, and that they're seen. Miss Faith, how do you think we can be better?
So I have definitely been letting my soul marinate on that question. There are so many amazing things about Loveworks that finding that direct point to say is kind of difficult, you know. Something I could see potentially assisting Loveworks, not in diversity, but in education, is providing resources to students regardless, you know. I am so much different than some of the students I've worked with at Loveworks or I was peers with at Loveworks. And you guys provided me with a lot of resources consistently, and you still do to this day. But something I think would be really amazing is seeing resources on being educated about the Black community. Like right now I'm reading a book about Tupac Shakur's sister. And that's just a crazy experience for me. But I think honestly having some autobiographies of people from the Black community, like library resources, links, everything like that, I think that would be an amazing thing to see. I would love to see that.
Duly noted. Thank you. Mr. Dantrell?
So, like Faith, I let my soul marinate on this question because Loveworks has done a lot for me, a lot as far as just change. I honestly say I owe like my life change and the person I am now to Loveworks. I owe a lot of it to them or to y'all, should I say, because y'all took me in when I was a little small kid that really didn't, a very small kid actually, who really didn't talk to anybody. It kind of kept to his self most of the time, and you guys brought me out of my circle. It was really cool because you guys like, you know, I'm different, and you know, you guys took in multiple kids that were different looking. You took in kids that, you know, whether they're Black, Asian, Native American, you know, just from different parts of the world. You took them in as if we were all just one big family. And you know, as far as kind of, I don't necessarily say y'all have something y'all can improve on, but I do have stuff y'all can keep doing, and that's just loving on the students and loving on each other, and teaching the students to, you know, love each other, because I think that's something that this world is desperately needing, and that's for all of us to love each other. I think I wouldn't say it's the main thing missing, but I want to say that's kind of like it's one of the catalysts that's missing in a lot of the world issues, that we're not loving each other. We're focused on, you know, either critiquing each other at the first hand, or we're focused on, you know, trying to figure out, you know, how can we improve on better than that one person, instead of just coming together as one vibe, should I say, like a wave of energy. Instead of vibing together, we're going at different wavelengths. And Loveworks has done a phenomenal job at, you know, bringing them all together. And like I said, you guys take students that are from different backgrounds, different like family life, stuff like that. They come and they are not used to hanging out with different people and doing things that are, you know, something they would typically wouldn't do. For me, instance, I still look back onto this day. Summer, for some reason, I was wearing blue shorts and a leather jacket, singing One Direction song. And I remember that today, but that's something that before that I typically wouldn't do. Box City, I would not be sleeping in a box. I would be in my bed most of the time, warm in my bed. I suffered that. Michael remembers the story very clearly. I took my socks off and I ended up like my feet were freezing. And it's because I was comfortable. And I think that, if you stay comfortable, you're not going to be able to expand and to grow. And so, like I said, LoveWorks has done a good job of helping the students, grow and learn different things and learn who they truly are. Be real, as I should say. It's something that is true about LoveWorks. And so, where do I think LoveWorks can improve? I really don't think they can improve nowhere. I think that they can keep doing what they are doing. That's just loving on students and loving each other.
Dantrell, Faith, Precious, thank you for sharing what you did. You've heard me say this privately to each of you, but I truly wish that I would have been in the place that you are right now. When I was 18, 19, 20, I was not in the place in my leadership journey that each of you are. And so proud. So I looking at Bola, and I just saw like the look of a proud mom as you were talking. We're going to begin to make a transition and wind down. I want to encourage everyone to hang with us to the very end. I believe we found a really special video that's going to be new. We started this episode out by getting a chance to see Kid President Robbie Novak when he was just a kid. But we found a video that's going to talk with us about what he's doing now. If you happen to have a box of Kleenex, get them. You might need them. Carolyn, I think you're going to share what LoveWorks is continuing to do in next steps that we're taking.
Yeah. So this is just the beginning and starting the conversation. And we actually have another thing coming up quite soon. And so one of the next ways that we're going to encourage important conversations with you is Raise Little Leaders Saturday production. If you happen to have little ones in your family, ages 0 to 10, we want you to make sure that you mark your calendars for a special Raising Little Leaders production on Saturday at 9 a.m. on Facebook. Saturday, we're going to be reading a special book, part of a production that is called Life Happens, Be the Solution, Listen, Learn, Love.
Yes, and we're thrilled to announce, and I feel, Carolyn, that we're just on a journey right now in these kind of conversations, but we're really thrilled to announce a new friend that we've had a chance to meet this week, and her name is Jennifer Keelan. Please, after this live stream, Google Jennifer and learn about her story. She's going to be our very next guest on our Link live stream on Monday at 9 a.m. Let me just tell you briefly about Jennifer. Jennifer, who's on the cover of this children's book that just came out a couple of months ago, that's called All the Way to the Top. It was written about Jennifer at the age of 6 years old when she participated in her very first protest. Jennifer was born with cerebral palsy, and at the age of 6, she just didn't mix in with the crowd, but she actually led the way. And it was her activism and her participation that led to, at the ripe old age of 8 years old, to be part of the famous Capitol Crawl, which encouraged Congress to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act. And Carolyn, we're going to have Jennifer with us next Monday. So I want to say a big thank you to Brock, to Bola, Faith, Tyler, Dantrell, Precious. Carolyn, I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but for joining us today. Today, we aren't going to come with all the answers, but thank you for each of you for making us better. We are definitely better for this conversation tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Remember, everyone, real leaders, they don't blend in, they stand out. And so we're excited to not have he's not a kid president anymore, perhaps a teen president. Robbie Novak documents a road trip that he took to Selma, Alabama, where he got to meet Joanna Bland, who walked in protest with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the age of 11 years old. And so we wanted you guys to check out this clip, check out this video, and just open your hearts and your minds. Dream big.
And do your dream.
Kid President Robbie Novak.
I wasn't here 50 years ago, but I hope to be in the next 50 years.
Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time. Make Selma, Alabama a better city. Now is the time.
From the early days of Civil War to the Civil Rights era, Selma, Alabama has been a key place in American history, and that's where we're headed.
In March of 1965, thousands of Americans from all over the country gathered in Selma, Alabama. They marched 54 miles to the state capital in Montgomery to dramatize the extent of racial injustice in that state and throughout all the Deep South.
One of the people we're going to be meeting is a woman by the name of Miss Joanne. She marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, lots of other brave men and women, and she was only 11 years old. Hey, look, there's the bridge.
Wow. So you mean your kids who cross this bridge every single day?
Yeah. And you're going to get to meet some of them.
So I got to meet a group of kids who called themselves the Hope Dealers. They're dedicated to making their community better by creating music videos. Don't let your loved ones down, all right? Even doing their own radio shows. They're always making a difference, no matter what they're doing. I was a bit rusty on the drum kit, but I played it anyway, which was a bad idea. The Miss Jaria, she showed me up. The kids and Miss Jaria, they're always up to something good.
This literally used to be a bathroom. Me and the kids dirtied it out.
It was inspiring to see all the things that they were doing. They showed us around their community, welcomed me and Brad in like family. Before this, everything I'd ever seen about Selma has been like in an old photo, always related to the past. But these kids showed me where they live. Now, it's their home. It's a place they can be themselves and just have fun. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have gotten in that swing. It took me way too long to get out. Everywhere we went, there were people doing something to make their town better for kids. The Edmondite mission let us tag along with a group of kids, getting a sneak peek of their brand new community center.
Well, we're just basically having some fun.
This entire place is a work in progress. And soon it'll be a place for kids and families of Selma to dream big dreams.
1, 2, 3.
When it came time to meet Miss Joanna Bland, I started getting a little nervous. But as soon as I met her, she put me at ease real quick.
So Robbie, you just focus on having a conversation with your friend here and ask her anything you want. Within reason.
Yeah, within reason. What was it for you, like when you walked, when you marched, when you were so young? Like, what was the experience?
Well, I really didn't know what we were marching for when I first started marching. There's a drugstore on Broad Street called Carter's Drugstore. It's still there today. But in the 60s, it had a lunch counter. And I wanted to sit at the lunch counter, but my grandmother said I couldn't. She said colored children, that's what we were called in, can't sit at the counter. But it didn't stop me from wanting to sit at that counter. Every time I pass by, I see those white kids spinning around on those stools, licking those ice cream cones, and I'd wish it was me. One day we were on Broad Street in front of Carter's Drugstore, and my grandmother was talking to one of her friends, and I was doing what I always do, peeping that window. This particular day, my grandmother noticed, and she leaned over my shoulder, and she pointed through the window to the counter. She said, when we get our freedom, you can do that too. I became a freedom fighter that day. I wanted to sit at that counter.
You were 11 years old when you marched.
It was exciting. People were there who didn't look like us. White people were there, and, Latino people were there, Jewish people were there. At one time, I thought every kid in the United States was doing the same thing that I was doing here in Selma, marching, even going to jail, seeing these people. So everybody, I didn't have anything to compare it to, so I thought it was happening all over the world.
What can we do today?
All young people ask me that. I do know you should be doing something. I don't know how to make you a road map to get to where we need to go. I think all young people, including you, should imagine what type of world you want just the people you love, just your circle of love to live in. And then you should try to work toward that.
We all have a duty to make sure the world keeps dreaming of better things. Keep dreaming, keep dreaming, keep dreaming.
You're the ones. You're the ones we've been waiting for. It's every generation's responsibility to make the world a better place than they found it.